Let's get after it. All the way back in May of 2021, Ford Motor Company and South Korean energy company SK Innovation signed a memorandum of understanding to create a joint venture that would manufacture electric vehicle batteries here in the United States. At the time, it was sold as the future. Looking back now, it's fair to ask, if we knew then what we know now, would this deal have ever moved forward the way it did? A few years ago, U.S. automakers were scrambling to move from gas-powered vehicles to electric. The demand was coming, the technology was coming, but the infrastructure wasn't fully built yet. So manufacturers like Ford went all in on battery production, betting that if they built the plants, everything else would fall into place. That's why Ford announcing a massive battery plant in Kentucky was such a big deal, not just for Ford, not just for electric vehicles, but for working people, for Glendale, for Louisville, and the surrounding region, for the trades. Kentucky may be a southern Midwestern state, but it has deep union roots. A project of this size meant thousands of union jobs, steady work, and years of opportunity. When ground was broken in December of 2022, the message was clear. This was good for the state, good for workers, and good for the future. At its peak, the BlueOval SK project employed around 2,600 trade workers. Local union memberships surged. Workers were told this would last for years. With a total investment of roughly $5.8 billion in public and private money, it certainly felt like there was plenty to go around. But then the problems started. Workers raised concerns about labor violations. Safety complaints followed. Blocked fire exits, chemical exposure issues, shipments of equipment arriving with mold that had to be cleaned off before installation, and bats. Yes, actual bats reported in the training area. All of it slowed the job down. All of it made the work harder. Over time, it left SK with a very sour view of American unions. That tension only grew when it became clear that once the plant moved from construction to production, it would operate as a non-union facility, and by late 2023, BlueOval SK began hiring and training permanent plant workers, and it was widely understood those jobs would be non-union. That rubbed a lot of people the wrong way, especially considering Ford is a union company. Most Ford workers belong to the United Auto Workers, and in late 2024, workers launched a union drive. By the summer of 2025, they narrowly voted to join the UAW, but by then it may have been too late. The job site had already become openly hostile to organizing. Anti-union ads appeared online, posters went up around the site, outside groups were brought in to discourage workers from supporting the union. And not long after the vote, everything changed. In December of 2025, right at Christmas, the Kentucky project was shut down. That same month, Ford and SK officially ended their joint venture. Ford retained the Kentucky facilities while SK, now operating as SKON, continued operating the Tennessee battery plant. And that part matters because the Tennessee plant, it's still running. Batteries are still being made there. Production didn't disappear. Now here's another layer. According to the New York Times, Ford has been reassessing its electric vehicle strategy amid shifting federal policies under President Trump, including changes to EV incentives and regulatory priorities. The Times reported that Trump's administration signaled rollbacks of climate-focused incentives and subsidies that had supported EV manufacturing expansion. When federal policy shifts, the economics of large-scale battery investment shift with it. So now the question becomes even more complicated. Was this shutdown about unionization? Was it about changing EV demand forecast? Was it about shifting federal incentives? Or was it about cutting losses after public subsidies had already been secured? Because regardless of the explanation, the public money was already spent. Which brings us back to the questions that still haven't been answered. What happened to the public money that went into this project? Did the shutdown have anything to do with workers choosing to unionize? And what happens to the thousands of workers who were hired, trained, and promised long-term employment? These weren't abstract investments. This was taxpayer money. state incentives, public loans, and now lawmakers are asking the same questions workers are. Where did the money go? Who benefits when a project like this collapses? And who's left to pick up the pieces? For the workers who showed up every day, built the plant, and voted for a voice on the job, the future they were promised disappeared almost overnight. That's not just a failed project, that's a warning. And it matters because this won't be the last time we see this happen. We're already watching billions in public money flow into data centers across the country. In places like West Virginia, states have stripped local communities of the power to challenge projects being built in their own backyards. Now we're being told AI is the next big innovation. Maybe it is, but maybe it's the next big bust. And if that happens, the real question won't just be what failed. It'll be whether your tax dollars were invested without your consent and without accountability. So here's the final question. If Ford plans to convert the Kentucky plant anyway, why did the workers have to be laid off in the first place? If you worked at the plant or you've seen something similar in your area or have an issue that needs to be told, let me know about it in the comments. Sharing this video helps more people see it, especially when working class issues struggle to break through the noise. And don't forget to follow for more working class stories that matter. And as always, my good friends, be safe, be productive, be well.